This week, Nazis and white nationalists flooded Charlottesville with tiki torches, chanting white supremacist rhetoric in objection to the taking down of the Confederate memorial statue of Robert E. Lee.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Blood and soil! 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 Whose streets? Our streets! 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 Whose streets? Our streets!
Our president had this to say about it.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
Donald Trump focused on how this march wasn't related to his administration.
It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time.
White nationalists of this march, titled Unite the Right, disagreed.
We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take our country back, and that's what we got to do.
Trump refused to respond to reporters asking if he had really said enough against this white power march.
Thank you, everybody.
Mr. President, how do you respond to white nationalists who say they're participating in Charlottesville because they support you?
They'd like me to sign the bill here instead of outside, so I think we'll do that. Okay? Thank you.
And then again for a second time.
Mr. President, do you want the support of these white nationalist groups who say they support you, Mr. President?
Mr. President,
have you denounced them strongly enough?
A carpetting a group of people, would you call that terrorism?
Trump came out with his second press conference where he finally did the right thing.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
Not bad, but his administration didn't seem to agree with him. Here's Jeff Sessions, Mitch McConnell, and Sebastian Gorka.
You know, the Confederate battle flag, I believe in history. We can't erase history. They seek to delegitimize the fabulous accomplishments of our country.
Agreed.
By finding all the problems and highlighting them continually and ignore the tremendous achievements we've obtained.
He has essentially said he cannot be impartial because he's Hispanic. Is that not a racist statement?
I couldn't disagree more with a statement like that.
Is it a racist statement?
I couldn't disagree more with what he had to say.
Okay, but do you think it's a racist statement to say?
I don't agree with what he had to say.
It's this constant, oh, it's the white man, it's the white supremacist, that's the problem. No, it isn't.
Listen, paranoia of losing your white privilege is the clearest form of accepting the fact that you have white privilege. Here's Trump himself, while sniffing from a cocaine habit, saying that we must identify the enemy by labeling them with their name.
To solve a problem, you have to be able to state what the problem is, or at least say the name. But the name is there. It's radical Islamic terror. And before you solve it, you have to say the name.
He took only 3 days to label Nazis as Nazis, which is surprising because Trump hasn't really had a problem with condemning things thus far.
From suggesting John McCain and other POWs aren't heroes because they got captured, to mocking a disabled reporter, from attacking a former Miss Universe to a Gold Star family, from the cast of Hamilton to his own Attorney General, there is seemingly no one who is immune to the president's ire.
The thing to remember here is that this wasn't about remembering our good heritage. It was about honoring our bad heritage. Not all heritage is good. Some of it should be embarrassing and something that we should learn from. Every civilization has to recognize that, even if it's our own. Another point here is that marching against hate is not violence, it's right. This is Heather Heyer. She was murdered by a white supremacist car as he drove into a crowd of patriotic and peaceful Nazi protesters, as you can see in this video. As a side note, freedom of speech wasn't brought up during Black Lives Matter, the resistance movement, or during the feminist women's march that followed Trump's inauguration, but it was brought up to defend Nazis. In a similar light, permits weren't brought up when the Americans disrupted the beaches of Normandy, but they were brought up to defend the Nazis in Charlottesville. Why now? I don't think it's because the right wants to admit xenophobia or racism. I think it's because they're glad someone is fighting for xenophobia and racism for them, because they are too cowardly to carry their own tiki torches. Here is Trump ruining everything he said in his second press conference.
The statement I made on Saturday, the first statement, was a fine statement. In fact, everybody said his statement was beautiful, so making the statement when I made it was excellent. And honestly, if the press were not fake, and if it was honest, the press would have said what I said was very nice. You had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. Those people were also there because they wanted to protest the taking down of a statue, Robert E. Lee. You take a look the night before, they were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. It looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest, and very legally protest, because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit.
Not all Trump supporters are racist. I know that. I get it, okay? But all racists are Trump supporters. Trump is minimizing and enabling these domestic terrorists. Our president is not only a clear and present danger to the safety of the citizens of the United States of America, but to its ideals as well. His presidency is no longer tenable. Trump ripped open old racist wounds in an attempt to remove himself from blame because he doesn't care about your country. He only cares about himself. Now I'm talking to the right, okay? The Republicans, right-wingers. You were treated badly, along with the left, by our government, who appealed not to the people, which is both of us, all right? We're both the people, but to the corporations and the aristocracy. You demanded change, and you had the right to do so. I'll give you that. We both demanded change. We just disagree about how to get there. See, economics isn't so hard when we remove all the social discord and media and politicians that try to distract us. But you bet on Trump. And backing that horse has forced you to shrug your shoulders at mocking the handicapped, insulting POWs, calling sexual assault locker room talk, stealing land from Native Americans once again for the sake of overseas profit, Russian influence on our electoral process, poking the bear of nuclear war, and now you're having to align yourself with Nazis? Are you tired of winning yet? Because you're having to sacrifice everything you believe in to do it. Listen, there are not two sides when one side is hate and the other side is opposing hate. Here's Trump, the guy that doesn't care about facts, the guy that we both admit lies, talking about how he wanted to know the facts.
I wanted to make sure, unlike most politicians, that what I said was correct, not make a quick statement. You don't make statements that direct unless you know the fact.
And since you wanted a businessman to run the government, here's him talking about a business opportunity in the light of someone dying at the hands of Nazis.
I own a house in Charlottesville.
Will you go to...
Does anyone know I own a house in Charlottesville?
Where is it?
Oh, boy. I own actually one of the largest wineries in the United States. It's in Charlottesville.
We fought a war about this Nazi propaganda, and we fought a war because of these Confederate anti-Americans, both of which the right is now having to align with in order to hold the party line. Let's not forget that these statues are going in a museum. The right says that we're hurting history and heritage, but there's a hard truth that only history can teach us. If you're going to try to improve the world, people are going to oppose you. They will fight your speech. They will strawman your message. They'll even kill your martyrs. If you're trying to make real change, you have to be ready for this wall from people wanting things to stay the same. That's the ideology of conservatism. They've been wrong at every point in history. Liberalism often loses elections, but always wins the historical perspective. If you want to stand up, you better be prepared for war. Anything you want, you can have, but just claim it. And when you get there, reach back, pull someone else up with you, each one, teach one. You don't like this generation, you're not a big fan of millennials. Well, this generation is teaching the next generation, and my children are learning that hard work works, and they will keep working for equality and love long after you're gone. You can't fight them when you're dead, and since they're trained to fight, your ideologies will remain dead. Your fight, however, will be honored the same way as these monuments to your Confederate heroes have been, on the back of a flatbed truck, being driven away from a cheering crowd. You think you're feeling patriotism? No, you're feeling the death throes of your crumbling ideology. You can make more noise, you can make more money, you can make more violence, you can make more hate, but you cannot make more time, and the future always views history through the eyes of liberalism. Pick any time in history, and I'll show you a time that you would have been a liberal standing right there next to me. The sky is not our limit. It's only our beginning, because the lights that you turn out today will be the stars of tomorrow. The voices that you silence today will achieve eternality in the textbooks that your descendants will read. Your time is done. Your only option now is to go out with a bang or a whimper. If you're lucky, you'll hear this. And I mean really, really hear this, and you'll realize that there's no difference between you and the people who have built all these incredible things, written these inconceivable works, changed the world for the better, and resisted the conservatives of their time. Then you'll be able to do something truly extraordinary with your life. You'll push back and you'll push forward, and you'll eternally be on the winning side of history. Maybe you feel very, very strongly about your beliefs. Maybe you're so certain that you're right, but guess what? So did the villains of your history books.
This is the face of supremacy. This is what we deal with every day being African American. And this has always been the reality of Charlottesville. You can't stand in one corner in the city and not look at the master sitting on top of Monticello. He looks down on us. He's been looking down on the city for God knows how long. This is Charlottesville.
Well, people die violent deaths all the time, right? Like, this is part of the reason that we want an ethno state, right? So, like, the blacks are killing each other in staggering numbers from coast to coast. We don't really want to have a part of that anymore. And so the fact that they resist us when we say, hey, we want a homeland, is not shocking to me, all right? These people want violence, and the right is just meeting market demand.
We must resist. We must stand up to this bigotry, not with cowardly equivocation like our president did, but with the courage of Heather Heyer, who was murdered by hate while she courageously opposed it. No more should the Republicans ignore this growing threat. No more should the left be divided or take half measures. No racism, no white supremacy, no xenophobia, no bigotry, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. Listen to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or PodBean. Subscribe to our movement on YouTube. Contribute at patreon.com/right, and learn more at therighttoreason.com.